you are knowledgeable on a lot of stuff, and that's what I love about your research. And during this hour, we're just going to have an open discussion because pretty much what I want to talk about is the space war, the alien threat, and a little bit about prophecy and about the New World Order also. But for the few that may not know who you are, which there's not many out there who shouldn't know who you are by now, tell us a little bit about you and how you got interested into the wonderful range of research you study.
Well, it's amazing to me how far it has come. It's an incredible ride and just been an amazing journey all along. I am a traveler by trade, wandering around and enjoying life as I became knowledgeable of an agenda around us and at the same time a miraculous existence. And so eventually those two met in the middle, where I realized that those that were in control of us were doing so through miraculous means, or what we call magic. And so I took that knowledge and I started to just follow the threads and follow everything I could about it. I found out my family was involved in certain levels, you know, my dad chasing flying saucers, or being worshipful master of the Freemasonic Lodge in Kaiserslautern. And it all came together to a point where I started telling people what I thought was going on and where I thought things were going, to the point where I told a number of people back in Lawrence, Kansas, that, hey, there's going to be a major terrorist attack on 9/11. Don't freak out. This is for your reaction. And it was from that moment on that I realized that I was onto something, because I had not only predicted 9/11 as a date, as an event for a false flag, but I had also predicted W would be forced into office. And I did this using Kabbalistic ciphers, because I learned that the Freemasons, the ones that have crafted and created our very nation, the ideas of nationalities, were practicing this Hebrew mysticism. And this just opened the door to me to where I just started spewing all this stuff about how I saw the world, because I could see the cipher in everything that they did. And in doing this, I was eventually asked to go on television and start talking about it. So I did. And that's what's brought me here to you.
And thank you very much. And I have been hearing all sorts of things about the oil spill here in the Gulf of Mexico, because I live in Louisiana. Many pick on my accent, but hey, I live in the South, and that's how we talk down here. But I'm just messing. But what do you think is the deal here? Like, could there be some sort of other agenda behind this?
Well, there is a plain agenda for us to be angry, to be feeling as if we are powerless, and as if the world is crumbling around us, which it is. So there is an agenda in that they take advantage of any dire consequence and use that for their own means. Is this a conspiracy? Honestly, there's not enough information to look into this Deepwater Horizon yet to state that there is a conspiracy. There's, of course, some weird trading going on, Goldman Sachs pulling short on the Gulf, and some shenanigans for sure, as if someone knew. And then, of course, there's a lot of synchromystics out there that are looking into Hollywood and how they project what could occur. And we have this film Knowing with Nicolas Cage, our favorite Freemason from National Treasure, right? And in Knowing, they absolutely show the exact scenario of what just happened. You can't tell one news report from the other. It even looks the same in the movie. And, of course, this being a long time, or I don't know when Knowing came out, at least a year before this occurred, of course. And so there's that scenario, and that's rather strange.
I don't know if you checked out CNN today. It's also on Infowars.com. It has Ted Turner talking about the Gulf oil spill, and the title, they have it titled, CNN founder Ted Turner says the recent oil spill and coal mine disasters could be a message from God. This is coming from Ted Turner, and I'm getting off subject a little bit, but I'm kind of new into this research. I'm 24 years old, and I've been researching for about 3 years now. And when I used to watch, because you know Ted Turner used to own WCW, right? Remember the World Wrestling Championship, whatever? I don't know if you remember whenever they used to have a group called the New World Order.
Yes.
Do you remember anything about that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
and even
yeah, it really.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Freeman, but
No,
it
go ahead.
really whenever I was looking into this, I was thinking, okay, Ted Turner, he's one of the richest men in the world, and of course he's part of the Illuminati, the elite of the world, and he created this group on his show on TNT. I think it was TNT back in the 90s, called the New World Order, which had Hulk Hogan and many other people in it. And one of their signs was the horn. When they put the horn up and they connect them together. And I'm just saying, like, because then I was a kid and I didn't really understand all that stuff. But now, since I've been researching this stuff, I'm like, wow, all this stuff comes together and it fits in like a puzzle piece.
It absolutely does. And you've really, really got to wonder. I tell you, sometimes I'm afraid to talk to very fundamental Christians with what I know, because I see them playing these sides against each other. But yet, when you look at the puzzle and you start to put the pieces together, it will make you wonder if we're dealing with revelations, with Satan, with some sort of biblical proportion type of story.
Yeah.
When you start to recognize that you take the satanic symbols and you see 666 encoded in everything, or Lucifer, and by this I mean that Fox, 20th Century Fox, Fox TV, Fox Mulder. Fox is the only word that equals 666 in English numerology, because F being the sixth letter, O being the 14th one, or 15th, 1 and 5 being 6, and X being the 24th, being 2 and 4, 6. So you look at that, you look at the bit and apple on your Macintosh, you look at Volkswagen's logo, which when you take this all back to Hebrew, as I was saying, then it is 666 with 3 V's, because V is 6 in Hebrew. Or when you look at Phoenix Pictures and they strike a friction match with Arnold Schwarzenegger playing a clone, a friction match is a Lucifer. When we, and you could go on and on and on with these satanic gestures that we see every single day. The star and the shell of Texaco and shell are signs of Venus, and Venus is Lucifer, so more Luciferian. So when I look at the picture and I see them actually trying to fulfill revelations, actually taking on names from Revelations, the members of Skull and Bones like H.W. and W., John Kerry, had taken on names from Revelation. Now they've killed off a potential third of the ocean with this oil spill, fulfilling, once again, the Revelation. So all over the place, what they're trying to do is show us this doomsday scenario and make us believe in it. We don't know if all these things are manufactured. They have HAARP that could cause earthquakes, floods, and volcanic eruptions. They have the HAARP transmitters all over the globe, so it doesn't even need to be the one in Alaska. It could be ISCAT, it could be Sura in Russia. We don't know anymore. Are they crafting all of this? We have the ability to hurl meteors at our own planet. And are they even meteors? We're having these strange incoming fireballs that seem to have no rock. I've been tracking them since 1999, wondering if they're rocks or if they're weaponry, because no scientist can find a rock. But this fireball comes into our atmosphere, causing sonic booms and earthquakes. This is where we're at in our technological advancement, and we're also dealing with an esoteric brotherhood that is following a Revelation script, an Armageddon script, if you will.
Exactly, and I'm glad you mentioned all that, because it kind of ties into what I've been thinking about a lot lately. To me, it seems like people are waiting a savior or a messiah figure to fulfill biblical prophecies and other prophecies around the world. But, I believe it's actually people, us, who create these prophecies instead of fate. Why do so many people get so deep into these prophecies about the end of times, the end of the world?
It's their only hope. They've never been presented with any other solution. And it's a victim mentality that, whether you like it or not, most register that it was a dark priestcraft that grabbed a hold of the concept between life and death and used that against the people. I mean, we certainly see it in the Vatican. And once again, they just put the Lucifer telescope in Arizona. When you start to see, you start to see the whole picture, then it becomes a control grid, a controlling mechanism, because we have that question: what happens when I die? And when you look at propagandists such as Walt Disney, and you see that the very first question they want to impregnate into that young child's mind is death. Why did the mommy die, mommy? You know, why did that evil fish eat little Nemo's mommy? Where do you go when you die? And at that moment, the priestcraft have control. And you'll see Disney using those methods often and over again. And of course, they were connected with the Nazis back with Werner von Braun. They were connected with Nazi propaganda and even American Nazi propaganda, if you want to take it to that route. So now they have us all set in a victim mentality, waiting for a savior for 2,000 years, and constantly using this because humans don't kill. We are not typically this barbaric tribe that Hollywood and the media tries to make us out to be. That we kill for good reasons. So when you go into the military, you're not going in there because you want to slaughter and maim people. You want to go in there because you have this idealism that America is the greatest and needs to slaughter everyone else. Or maybe you're not even thinking about the slaughter that you're going to be asked to do. Maybe you're just doing your political duty. And so we are always sold on this lie that it's the right thing to do. That being the vengeful hero right now is the right thing to do. And no one's willing to take on the path of the Messiah. But that whole plan will be used against us as well, with, once again, technological means most likely. We have a few Messiahs running around right now. One main one, of course, that comes to many people's attention is this Maitreya, coming through Share International. Strangely enough, made his appearance in Kenya while Barack Obama was there. And the Maitreya is to be heralded by a star, and people are seeing this star all over the globe and recognizing it as the new star of Bethlehem. And even Benjamin Krem, who pretty much is the PR for the Maitreya, is using this star to guide people to think he is a Messiah. And what we need to realize is the shenanigans or even the stage magic that's going on, because there was a Russian experiment to launch up this satellite. It was called the New Light experiment, and it was open science. Everyone was told about it, that they were going to launch a giant fan mirror reflector to shine sunlight back onto planet Earth to heat up regions for agriculture. And if you take this Maitreya star, then you can superimpose it right over this New Light experiment and see that it's once again a show. So we're caught in this matrix.
So is this right around the same time of the Norway spiral you're talking about?
Well, the star's been being reported for some time now. Do you mean the New Light experiment, or do you mean the Maitreya star?
I'm talking about the Norway spiral back in December of last year. Is there any connection?
I think the Norway spiral is something along the lines of what I was talking about with these false fireballs. Because there was a list of threats that were going to be made against the population of planet Earth to bring about a one-world government. And Werner von Braun, the SS Nazi scientist that came over to America, worked with Walt Disney and NASA, who started our rocket program, he said that there would be the Red Scare, terrorism, followed by asteroids, and then alien invasion. And it's been following this script exactly to the point that I was talking about Werner von Braun and the next 9/11 being asteroids, and an asteroid nearly hit the planet. And then they warned us of this incoming death rock apotheosis. So I think the Norway spiral, when you start to look at it now, what piece of the puzzle many people missed was the cloud of care that launched from the Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia, which is also known as Mars. And they launched this rocket, Minotaur, I believe it was, up into the upper atmosphere, about 137 miles into the atmosphere, which is right about where the International Space Station orbits. And they launched a cloud of what they called care, but it was the Charged Aerosol Release Experiment. And it was an aluminum oxide cloud that dispersed out of the rocket, and it looked like a giant portal opening in the sky with a blue spiral coming up out of it. And it was reported in the news up and down the East Coast, and people were going, I think it's aliens, I think it's aliens. Now, you could have watched the launch live on my website. The Cloud of Care I had been tracking since the day I heard about it. The Cloud of Care was identical to this Norway spiral in many ways, minus the spiral. And what we found was the charged aerosol release experiment was an aluminum oxide cloud that was released up into the upper atmosphere to test noctilucent clouds. But I'll tell you, this was launched by the military, by the United States Space Force. This was not some sort of scientific experiment. When we see the Norway spiral, we see many of the same effects. It looks like a rocket launched. It looks like the rocket spun aluminum oxide out of the side of its fuselage, causing the rocket to spiral. And that blue spiral that you see coming out, even Dr. Dimple, who is the head rocket scientist over there, saying that what you're seeing in that blue spiral is aluminum oxide because it's the base element for sapphire, and that's why it sparkles blue like that. But the curious thing is here is our military in America launching up rockets, throwing out aluminum oxide clouds. Now, one thing that I could think about was thermite. Thermite is aluminum with iron oxide. So what is it when you take aluminum oxide and perhaps energize it with a ionospheric heater, or these ultra-low radio frequency transmitters like ISCAT? They're in Norway. Oh God, those Swedish names. Well, there is an antenna array directly below where this Norway spiral occurred in Tromsø, Solverbard, if I can get the name out. And so we have a connection with this aluminum oxide cloud with the radio frequency transmitter. Now, in that same thing, if I can carry on, we have the chemtrail campaign going on over our heads, and we know that what we have there is aluminum and barium. And aluminum, once again, you're breathing this into your system, a heavy metal that is making you an antenna for certain radio frequency transmitters, such as HAARP. And HAARP would then use these radio frequencies to alter your very morality, your state of being, your very health. And on top of that, the barium then is in your system, and that is used for tracking. So next to the HAARP facility in Gakona, Alaska, there's a large oil rig that has a giant ball on top of it, and it is a X-band radar which actually sees barium in systems. So it's an over-the-horizon radar that now can see where every human being is because we're breathing in all of these heavy metals. But I think that Norway spiral was a warning, perhaps, to Barack as he showed up for the Nobel Peace Prize. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was outside the other day, about a month ago, and because you mentioned chemtrails and everything, so I guess I'll go ahead, because I didn't told everybody this is going to be an open discussion, and it's not really laid out in a certain format. But I was walking outside, and of course I saw the checkerboards, just like many say, you know, that they see in the skies. And I could have sworn to you, Freeman, that I saw, it's hard to explain, like in the air, like I saw like a mist. It's hard, it's not even really a mist. It was just kind of like something in the air that I saw. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about or if you've seen it yourself, but
I do.
It's like something was kind of falling from the sky because these were checkerboards all over the sky, Freeman, and it kind of creeped me out because I was like, wow, we are breathing in this stuff, man, and like, what is this doing to our insides, you know?
Now, when you did that, did you make sure to check your health the next day to see how you felt? Do you remember? Did you feel lethargy, achy, sick, like flu-like symptoms? Because
now, I don't think it wasn't the next day, but it was about I don't know if it can carry on this long, but it was about 4 days later I got a cold. 4 days later, I don't know if that has any connection to it or not.
No, it really does. It really does. And what had happened in the beginning of chemtrails, because I've been watching them since 1996, was that a spider web type substance was falling from the sky as they laid these trails, and it was landing in people's yards. It was sticking all over their windshields, and anytime anyone would touch it, they would get flu-like symptoms. And next thing you knew, the news was reporting a flu-like symptom epidemic. In Kansas City, thousands of birds dropped dead from the sky. They spent about 5 minutes on the news about it. And then when I lived in Austin, not as many, hundreds of birds dropped dead from the sky over Austin, Texas. And strangely, I was talking with Rosalind Peterson from California Skywatch just right as that had happened. We are all seeing this. We are all reporting it. It is causing devastation on the trees. It's causing, a lot of the growth to die off. And it is causing us to have these illnesses. And most people don't realize that they're dealing with heavy metal. They think they're dealing with a virus. And so what are we to think when we're dealing with, like, the swine flu or symptoms of the swine flu? Do we now know, is it actually a virus, or are we dealing with heavy metal poisonings? It's a very curious thing.
I hear only two sides of the story here by people. One, it's either a secret rogue group out there to depopulate the Earth, or it's actually that they're not meaning to do any harm, but there's a secret rogue group out there trying to reflect solar or strengthen the atmosphere and strengthen the ozone layer where radiation and solar flares doesn't penetrate the Earth's surface quite as badly. Well, what do you think, Freeman?
Well, most evidence suggests that it's the opposite of that these chemtrails actually block in the UV radiation and keep it bouncing back and forth between the atmosphere and Earth, but does not stop it from coming through. So I don't think that that's really the case. As we look at the situation, we realize these guys don't really need us anymore, and that's a scary place to be. We've moved into the transhuman era now. We have robots going up to the International Space Station. We have cloning going on across the globe. We have a new world that they can open. And what they seem to be doing now is bringing about this ultimate destruction so that they can rule in the future. And it seems to be a cycle we've gone through before. We have all the tales of Atlantis, and of course the Freemasons and the Nazis, they were heavily into this concept of Atlantis. That's why our rockets are named Apollo and Atlas, well, mostly Atlas being the king of Atlantis. When you start to see, well, the space shuttle names, the Columbia Endeavor for the discovery of Atlantis, and the constant references to this, we know that they have a different belief than we do in our existence. Sir.
You were talking about Vernon von Braun a while ago. I'm going to switch course a tad. We have about 30 minutes remaining, about 32 minutes exact. Is the war against extraterrestrials going to be the next threat after the phony terrorism threat, which will die off eventually? And maybe that is why the government is already making steps toward an ET threat by weaponizing space. Tell me your thoughts, Freeman.
I am desperately trying to sort this one out because it does seem, and the people that I speak with, insiders such as Stuart Swerdlow or others that are coming out, that they're setting up a grid that's to fight off the incoming aliens. Or if you talked with Stuart Swerdlow, it would actually be aliens on planet Earth that were plotting a false invasion by themselves from their own galaxy. How this all will play out is a curious role. All I can do is mark the symbolic gestures that they do. And what I see often is now they're trying to promote this ancient alien story. They're trying to put Buzz Aldrin in everybody's kitchen right now, which is really strange. You know, they've had him on Dancing with the Stars. They had him on World Wrestling and I guess on 30 Rock. And each time bringing up Phobos and then that attaching to the concept of this monolith on Phobos. The idea of ancient civilizations existing in our ancient past, right, in our past. On other planets. And this has been something that's been promoted throughout our generation through such people as Richard Hoagland or Drumbelow Melchizedek or even Stuart Swerdlow with his galactic history or Collier. And each time we get a little bit of the story, get a little idea, and we can accept now as we have moved into this, the fact that we probably aren't alone in the universe. And of course, now they have the smartest man in the world, Stephen Hawking, saying that, you know, we should not contact aliens, that they will be dangerous, that they can come here. Putting it into the consciousness of the minds, putting it in everywhere. We have Fife Symington, who was saying, don't believe in these phoenix lights, and he dressed his aid up as a gray and laughed at everyone as they questioned what that giant V-shaped craft was over their city. Now he comes out saying, oh, you should have seen it, it was otherworldly. Yeah, I had to lie to everybody for their benefit. So we wonder if they are lying. Well, we know they're lying to us, and they know. We just have to figure out which direction the lie is going, right?
Yeah.
So I do see a massive type of invasion, and I think it's going to be beyond this world. I think you're going to see these large V-shaped craft and probably human-like aliens, and it's really going to transition this world because they're already preparing the next stage. They've already got their pre-planned cities of Astana, Canberra, and Dubai as they start to shift the new current of planet Earth into this extraterrestrial world. But the next current, really, the next strange thing that's coming is this mind-transferring technology. Now, they just fired up the LHC grid, the grid at the CERN facility that is 100,000 directly fiber optic connected computing systems. It's the largest computing system on the planet. And this has the capability of mind-transferring technology, of actually cloning a human brain into this virtual world and transferring it to another body or a robot somewhere else. And so what we see also is they're setting up, like NASA is putting up a large deep wave guide antenna array in Canberra, Australia. We're also seeing many strange earthquakes and weird anomalies in the meteorological satellites that are showing droid eyes opening up over another antenna array owned by Boeing there in Australia. And what we have here is the potential, as they shot that Dorito commercial to Ursa Major, we have the potential of sending people's consciousness to another solar system, much like what we see in Contact of Carl Sagan. They've kind of shifted gears on the whole concept of extraterrestrial contact from being physical to being this type of mental transmission. And this really ties into the whole brotherhood scheme and how they have related and contacted and kept in contact with an Egyptian godlike group that they call the Nine, and that they are using this influence to guide civilization.
I personally believe that, since we're speaking of these black triangles and everything, I personally believe that these black UFO triangles that are seen all over the world, such as Phoenix, Belgium, and elsewhere, are top secret black op aircraft. And many argue with me and say, no, they're extraterrestrial. No, I don't think so. I think they're government, some kind of rogue group out there. But do you believe that these black triangles could be implemented in a fake ET invasion whenever they do decide to carry on this project?
Definitely. One thing for certain, you can go get the anti-gravity handbook and you can research for yourself all of the anti-gravity technologies. And I personally witnessed a large V-shaped craft, much like the one described in the Phoenix Lights, and it flew directly over my car in Utah. What I saw were blue plasma balls holding up a V-shaped craft with an orange-like hourglass light in the front. And these plasma balls would be exactly what were described in the anti-gravity handbook. What anti-gravity would be using pocket-sized particle accelerators running on a gyro that then cause gravitational wells that make you fall in that direction. Now, we know this is possible because they announced that they now have a gravity tractor, much like a tractor beam from Star Wars. And the gravity tractor is hopefully going to try and save us from apotheosis, something that they're discussing right now. So we are at that point, yes, where we have a highly technologically advanced group of people on planet Earth with deep underground military bases, all the resources of the world. They've most likely been shipping all that gold and using it in their technologies, all the gold that's missing under the Twin Towers. And they've also, I believe, transported it up to the International Space Station, just as it was told in the ancient Sumerian tales of the Agigi, and they would launch the gold up there for the arrival of Planet X. Now we have all of the NASA bases opening up, and like I said, the Vatican just put in the Lucifer telescope. They have the IRAS, they have the Chandra, they have the WISE. They've launched 2 more solar satellites in the Solar Dynamic Observatory. They're watching for something, and it's something that we can't see. And it's possible that there's a second sun in our system and is a brown dwarf star, so therefore invisible to the naked eye, but visible to these satellites. They seem to be preparing for some sort of doomsday scenario. We've got the Doomsday Vault in Norway, and we've got all these deep underground bases, but you need to create a mindset. So destruction would not be enough, because they want to be the gods that rule in the future. And so therefore they need to first create the mindset, the existence of this, then totally devastate planet Earth, and then come in as these savior gods and rule in that way. So it's all about creating the belief systems. That's what all of this psychological warfare is going on around us.
Exactly. And I know about projects such as Bluebeam and others that are out there, and of course the terrorism, that's dying off. Yeah, I know we're still in Iraq and Afghanistan and other nations in the world fighting the fake war on terrorism, but are the elite ready to move forward, and are they ready for a fake extraterrestrial invasion, or do they need more time?
Well, I think they're going to bring it to the brink of destruction. They need this biblical play to play out. And so what I see coming is a 4th of July move. I'm predicting the 4th of July because I try to show the ritual nature of this brotherhood, and that's how I predicted 9/11. That's how I predicted W. And I also predicted live on Alex Jones and numerous other shows about 1013, and that one, was public. So there, you can see my public prediction on that. I also predicted the incoming asteroid in a way, because as I was saying, I was discussing it right before it happened. But what I see then is this 4th of July event, whereas the Vatican will make moves on the Temple Mount. And the reason I believe it'll be the Vatican and the Temple Mount is the symbolic gestures that I've been witnessing. So when we saw W meet up with the Pope, they met in St. John's Tower on Friday the 13th. That is the infamous 1013 that was used in my other prediction. But we see the Pope coming forward and announcing that the Templars are exonerated of all their sins. And we find that he was actually secretly seeking into the Illuminati and the Templars back when the Pope was head of the Inquisition, still as Cardinal Ratzinger. I see certain signs coded in Masonic cornerstone laying ceremonies. So the Twin Towers were dated to 9/11 on their cornerstones. The Pentagon's dated to 9/11 on its cornerstone. The One World Tower was laid on the 4th of July. The 4th of July was the day the Templars lost the Temple Mount. And this is actually what is being venerated in our holiday of this day, as far as I believe, because we live in a free Masonic nation. We established House Resolution 33 to state that we have Freemason Day. June 24th is Freemason Day, if no one knows, to establish the very fact that this is a free Masonic nation, crafted, created, and controlled by. And when you start to get them connected with the Templars, as you understand that story runs through, then you realize how this whole story plays. And so when the Pope makes a move on the Temple Mount, taking it from the Muslims, this sparks the holy war that Albert Pike, the head of the Freemasons, had projected. And this starts the whole of World War III. But America is slated to be the satanic force this time. We're the Nazis of this era. And so America will do dastardly things. We're going to do our military, our nation, our leaders, whatever they are, they're going to cause people to hate America. We see this already coming out in symbolic gestures where Barack Obama is given a priceless gift from Gordon Brown, and it's a pen box made from this ancient boat, and it's a one-of-a-kind thing, and he sends them back 25 DVDs. This makes the Brits go, look at those cheap bastards, over there in America. They just suck, and no one wants... And then you look at the ritual aspect. Barack Obama, in ancient Aramaic, in Jesus' tongue, Barack Obama means lightning from heaven. And that is the description of Satan. He rides around in the beast, the limousine. When you play Yes We Can backwards, it clearly says, thank you, Satan. And so it is. We are the satanic force. That is the spell that you're witnessing there. Because when you perform ceremonial magic, you have to incorporate every part of the spell as much as you can. You want as much pointing in that direction. If you're calling on Mars, you need red. You need a certain odor. You need, certain things. So now America is the satanic force. So I see us actually nuking Iran in the very near future to really get the forces to come on and attack America.
I just don't understand how we can afford to be in another war, because the way the economy is right now, and we're already in tons of countries across the world, you know, and specifically Afghanistan and Iraq. How can we afford to go to war with another nation such as Iran?
They just sell you to another country. I mean, money is nothing but this evil spell. And as long as we continue to follow and believe that that's the true system that will keep us going, then we're doomed. And the quicker people realize that, the better. But money is nothing but a spell, and it's moving on from being even just a simple spell to being a true trap with all of our digitized money now. I mean, that's just a prison cell. At least with the paper pantacles, you had some liberty of where you could go and what you could do with it without being known and get away with it. But that very spell took life from us in the first place, and it's the reason that we are drifting away from what is human and moving into this warfare, moving into an endless war. And we see that Phantom Works at Boeing just released their brand new Phantom Ray stealth robotic fighter. When does it end? I mean, that can't be good. All I can see are visions of Terminator Salvation, right? But money doesn't...
Go ahead, Freeman. I'm sorry.
Money doesn't really exist, and so therefore they don't really need it. And once they have this technological superiority, it won't matter anymore. Besides
the New World Order and a microchip population, what is the ultimate goal on a consciousness level do the elite have in plan for the future of mankind?
Once again, there's another curious aspect to this, and that is them programming into us the acts of sorcery. If you read the book of Enoch, and you'll see how the fallen ones had come and taught sorcery to the women mostly, and taught warfare and the ways of dark magic. I see that same spell being cast on us right now with the ideas of Harry Potter, or even Beyonce in her performances, or Lady Gaga, are promoting this concept of a dark magician. And so I wonder if we aren't moving into this awakening, this transition of matter, where this next sun rises and we are then awakened into abilities that are dreamlike. And what they want from us now is to condition us to use this in a very egoistic way. And this would bring sure destruction to all of us. If we were then given the powers to manifest, then if they can control how we manifest, that's what they are doing at this time. So I wonder a lot of times, because we seem to be on this brink of both paths coming, either this New World Order grip or the ultimate freedom of manifestation. And I see them conditioning our brains to take it to an egoistic type of magic, or what's known as sorcery, instead of using the divine openness and allowing the universe to guide, or God, whichever term you prefer.
It seems like they're moving at an incredible rate of speed, the lead of the world, and many say that it's because of 2012. Why do, of course, there are many theories about 2012, you know, the minds, and people say it's the end of the world, you know, but why do the elite always pick a certain date and use that certain date as an advantage to create a certain outcome?
It is a curious thing. They are the masters of time. They're the masters of geometry. They're ones that have been practicing certain forms, shapes, and numerological advantages for quite some time. Magic is a very consistent system. It is a system of science, but it's a science of the divine, and so most don't believe in it. But these guys do. And so when they build things like the Bicentennial Mall in Nashville, it's absolutely designed as a seal of Solomon to bind spirits. And it sits on top of a Native American burial ground. And on that same note, we see as they kill off all of the Aboriginal people. And this, again, kills off a vibration force. As they destroy all of the natural plant life and replace it, kill off the old growth and replace it. This is all vibrational warfare. But then I also see them doing such things as putting up paramagnetic antennas, which are basically some weird freak force that they understand that they can channel into their buildings to get the seething powers of Lucifer, as Manly P. Hall put it. We need to make sure that we're on the path, on the light side. I kind of got lost in the direction where we were going with this question. You had said the elite were rushing towards 2012.
Yeah, and the elite always tend to pick a certain date. Of course, 2012 is particularly to the Mayan calendar, but it seems like the elite are trying to rush things ahead of time, ahead of schedule, for a certain date. Of course, they use movies like 2012 to put fear in us, and other movies such as Avatar and things like that, and they try to put these subliminal messages in us to help, I guess, to help them along with their agendas. And it seems like they always pick a certain date, and one that many researchers say is 2012 or around 2012. You know, between 2011 and 2015 is what I hear.
Right. Yeah, I've definitely seen where the 2012 date has also been deciphered as December 24th, 2011. I don't think anyone actually has the full Gregorian understanding of that. I know the Mayans were running around saying, Jose Arguelles, please shut up and don't say these things anymore. But when I spoke with the Mayans, I went and performed a ritual with them at the pyramids at Tikal. They firmly believe that we were in for this major catastrophe throughout these next few years. And they're probably being proven right, being that there's a massive volcano erupting right there in northwest Guatemala, and of course all of the rest that's going on. And they firmly believe that the end was coming. But they also believe that we could transition this more smoothly through gratitude, by ceremonial ritual, by showing our love force to the world. Now, the Illuminati, they have this same type of belief system of controlling what is called the Shekinah, or the Holy Spirit, and they use different means, and that's where these numerological dates come in, or even just as significant numbers. Because 9/11, as it popped up in numerous films, everyone saw it in like Independence Day and on Neo's Passport. They saw 9/11 left and right, thinking that that would be a symbolic date for them, but it's more a symbolic number. Because 9/11 is the number of a Luciferian. It's the number of a sorcerer. If you skip 10, which is the holy God, the unity of the 1 and 0, and you become 11, then you are a sorcerer, because you're now a magician without using the love of God, without using the love of the this combination. And so 9/11 actually, throughout time, you can find it in many magical books, magical works of Kenneth Grant, of Aleister Crowley, of even Isaac Bonowitz, showing that 9 and 11 were these sorcerer numbers. And so it's not often, or it's not always a date, but the meaning of the numbers themselves. Just like Philip 66 equaling W, because 6 is V in Hebrew, that is a number that represents the fallen angels to them. And so when you see actually Philip 66 has 6 points on the crest as well, it has a coded 666 in there, but the initial number is the 66, the fallen angels. The 1013 guess, you know, I can only say was a guess. They do show all kinds of coded references and honors to this. So a lot of this as well is signs of allegiance, so that it's kind of a message to the rest of the world, such as when they announced the piracy of the Sirius Star, bringing everyone down to the Gulf of Aden. The Sirius Star is the very blazing pentagram that the Masons worship. Any brother would know this. Any person within the esoteric orders of even the OTO or the Church of Satan or the Freemasons would all know the meaning of the Sirius Star. When we attacked Baghdad, they called it the Shock and Awe campaign, and that's a play on that Shekinah, that divine Hebrew force, the Holy Spirit. And they used the mother of all bombs, the Moabs, to destroy Nebuchadnezzar or Saddam Hussein. So there are multiple reasons, but it's all ritual.
Yeah. I need you to help elaborate this, because I'm sure you know more about this than I do. But I saw this somewhere about the the Monster Energy drink. Is that Hebrew? The logo, the symbol on the Monster Energy drink, the 3 claw marks, is that is that 666 in Hebrew?
It sure is. I'm glad you caught that. Yes, absolutely. It's in everything, and that's when it starts to get freaky, because you start to go, oh my God, is this real? Should I start, bowing down to Jesus really quick? Or is this some sort of spell to make sure that we are the satanic force? Is this the ritual end so that they could bring about their Maitreya or their risen one? Because the story of death and resurrection is constant in Freemasonry. When you join Freemasonry, you go through a death and resurrection ritual. When you study the ancient Egyptian rituals, you do death and resurrection. Horus was the ascended child. And the magicians, like Aleister Crowley and the followers, now that's high Freemasonry there. That's beyond what most Freemasons even know as Freemasonry, because most Freemasons don't realize they're practicing magic. But
Yep.
We will see very clearly that they say this is the age of Horus.
It doesn't really matter. Well, people tell me all the time, like, this stuff is bogus. Man, you believe in all this stuff. You know what I normally tell them, Freeman, when I have a conversation with somebody, is that, okay, let's say all of this stuff is bogus. Let's say all this, what the elite believe in, let's say it's all false, and it's not going to happen. The thing is, it doesn't matter if we believe that it's bogus. The elite of the world actually believe that it's true, and they are willing to kill, murder, and anything to fulfill these agendas, and that's what's scary.
Yeah, and when you start digging into the occult, you start reading the works of Israel Regardie, or you start looking deep into magical practices, you'll see that there is a very thick, a very impressive amount of data on magic. And we find that all the smartest people on our planet have practiced magic. Every one of them was into some sort of sacred geometry, or any, almost every technological advancement that we have comes through the occult. So to say that it is merely the fact that we don't yet understand that this exists. Now, that's one thing, but here I am coming out trying to tell people that the president is a clone of an ancient pharaoh. Now imagine the ridicule, and the disbelief I get from my friends.
Exactly.
And, I'm dead serious about this because of the amount of evidence that I have. It wasn't a flight of fancy or some political scheme that made me say this. I followed the data and I followed the evidence, and I've proven myself enough to be talking about it for a couple of years now.
Yeah, it's a tool that I normally use against the non-believers, or the people that just call us conspiracy nuts. Like, I just say, well, okay, let's say that all it is bogus. The elite of the world believe it's true, and it's a very scary thing if they are willing to kill and murder over this. But somebody in the chat room, Freeman, wants you to talk a little bit about the Zobi energy drink and the lizard.
And the lizard people, yeah. Well, strangely enough, I had been tracking the merfolk, the fish people, the ancient fish people of Atlantis. And David Icke, he was tracking the reptilians. And unfortunately, I didn't publish, or I would have maybe been as famous as David Icke by now. But we were both on the same trail. We're both tracking the same thing, but he was coming up with reptiles, and I was coming up with merfolk. And it turned out that we were both correct on many levels. That if there were any reality to this, it would be both amphibian and reptilian in agenda. So when you start to look at the symbolism and the symbolic nature of our world, you will see this very amphibian reptilian stream running through and through. So I have found it everywhere I look. In Florida, you're going to find in St. Augustine, the oldest city in America, all kinds of merfolk symbolism, coupled with even fish monster DNA, caduceus, and very strange merfolk attachments. And of course, this is where we get our whole Cthulhu mythos. And there were some Cthulhu Necronomicon wearers there in the WWF as well. I remember in the New World Order, they were venerating Cthulhu as well. And this is a practice that the Satanists know about. This is H.P. Lovecraft type of stuff where he took the Sumerian tales and crossed them with these horrendous fish beings. When you start to look into the puzzle, you'll find that in ancient Egypt, there was the 9, as I was discussing. That's what Osiris Isis said. And then you have the 8, which are known as the Ogdoad, and they are couples of amphibians and reptilians. And as you continue to carry on the story, you come up to the 21st century, and we have something known as exopolitics, and they state that there are 2 races in charge of planet Earth because they are both technologically superior, that they had to come together and rule together. And it was a fish race from Sirius and a reptilian race from Alpha Draconis. Then we look at our city-states, and we see that the Pope's dressed up in his daggone fish hat with a shell on his chest, and he is representing this cult of the fish merfolk. And then the city of London, they have the dragon. And then the very symbol in Egypt for Sirius, which is where the fish people were supposed to come from, is an obelisk, a dome, and a pentagram, which is what we find in each of these city-states, and we also find in nearly every capital in America. So are we venerating Sirius in our architecture? And of course, it was the Freemasons that put up there, and they do worship Sirius. Zechariah Sitchin that said that King Hiram of Tyre was one of the only people to be taken off the planet, like Enoch, and returned with this strange man that helped build Solomon's temple, and that is the very ritual that you go through in Freemasonry. So even the Freemasonic rituals could be extraterrestrial in origin.
A group called the New World Order.
Yes.
Do you remember anything about that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
and even...
Yeah, it really. Sure. Yeah, I'm sorry, Freeman, but whenever I was looking into this, I was thinking, okay, Ted Turner, he's one of the richest men in the world, and of course he's part of the Illuminati, the elite of the world, and he created this group on his show on TNT. I think it was TNT back in the 90s, called the New World Order, which had Hulk Hogan and many other people in it. And one of their signs was the horn. When they put the horn up and they connect them together. And I'm just saying, like, because then I was a kid and I didn't really understand all that stuff. But now, since I've been researching this stuff, I'm like, wow, all this stuff comes together and it fits in like a puzzle piece.
It absolutely does. And you've really, really got to wonder. I'll tell you, sometimes I'm afraid to talk to very fundamental Christians with what I know, because I see them playing these sides against each other. But yeah,
you are knowledgeable on a lot of stuff, and that's what I love about your research. And during this hour, we're just going to have an open discussion, because pretty much what I want to talk about is the space war, the alien threat, and a little bit about a prophecy and about the New World Order also. But for the few that may not know who you are, which there's not many out there who shouldn't know who you are by now, tell us a little bit about you and how you got interested into the wonderful range of research you study.
Well, it's amazing to me how far it has come. It's an incredible ride and just been an amazing journey all along. I am a traveler by trade, wandering around and enjoying life as I became knowledgeable of an agenda around us, and at the same time, a miraculous existence. And so eventually those two met in the middle, where I realized that those that were in control of us were doing so through miraculous means, or what we call magic. And so I took that knowledge and I started to just follow the threads and go on television and start talking about it. So I did, and that's what's brought me here to you.
And thank you very much. And I have been hearing all sorts of things about the oil spill here in the Gulf of Mexico, because I live in Louisiana. Many pick on my accent, but hey, I live in the South, and that's how we talk down here. But I'm just messing. But what do you think is the deal here? Like, could there be some sort of other agenda behind this?
Well, there is a plain agenda for us to be angry, to be feeling as if we are powerless, and as if the world is crumbling around us, which it is. So there is an agenda in that they take advantage of any dire consequence and use that for their own means. Is this a conspiracy? Honestly, there's not enough information to look into this Deepwater Horizon yet to state that there is a conspiracy. There's, of course, some weird trading going on, Goldman Sachs pulling short on the Gulf, and some shenanigans for sure, as if someone knew. And then, of course, there's a lot of synchromystics out there that are looking into Hollywood and how they project what could occur. I follow everything I could about it. I found out my family was involved in certain levels, you know, my dad chasing flying saucers, or being worshipful master of the Freemasonic Lodge in Kaiserslautern. And it all came together to a point where I started telling people what I thought was going on and where I thought things were going, to the point where I told a number of people back in Lawrence, Kansas, that, hey, there's going to be a major terrorist attack on 9/11. Don't freak out. This is for your reaction. And it was from that moment on that I realized that I was onto something, because I had not only predicted 9/11 as a date, as an event for a false flag, but I had also predicted W would be forced into office. And I did this using Kabbalistic ciphers, because I learned that the Freemasons, the ones that have crafted and created our very nation, the ideas of nationalities, were practicing this Hebrew mysticism. And this just opened a door to me to where I just started spewing all this stuff about how I saw the world, because I could see the cipher in everything that they did. And in doing this, I was eventually asked her, and we have this film Knowing with Nicolas Cage, our favorite Freemason from National Treasure, right? And in Knowing, they absolutely show the exact scenario of what just happened. You can't tell one news report from the other. It even looks the same in the movie. And, of course, this being a long time, or I don't know when Knowing came out, at least a year before this occurred, of course. And so there's that scenario, and that's rather strange.
Well, I don't know if you checked out CNN today. It's also on Infowars.com. It has Ted Turner talking about the Gulf oil spill, and the title, they have it titled CNN founder Ted Turner says the recent oil spill and coal mine disasters could be a message from God. This is coming from Ted Turner, and I'm getting off subject a little bit, but I'm kind of new into this research. I'm 24 years old, and I've been researching for about 3 years now. And when I used to watch, because you know Ted Turner used to own WCW, right? Remember the World Wrestling Championship, whatever. I don't know if you remember whenever they used to have